What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Stiles Files. And in this episode, we have quite the treat. A man that needs no introduction and would probably prefer that I don't give him an introduction, but I'm going to anyway. Ray Ratto, legendary sports columnist, sports writer, TV guy, radio guy. Ray's been around for The Catch. We'll get into that. A lot of things to talk about. But Ray, honestly, I just want to say thank you for joining. Thank you. We're both on the island. So thank you for actually joining. I call you every weekend to come hang out, and you just don't.
No, I'm a bad person. And I don't want to hang out. Not in general, just specifically with you. You're the one.
I told you there's an Applebee's right down the street.
That's maybe the biggest reason why.
Well, I want to start here because, I mean, there's so much to cover, and you've really seen how the industry has changed. A lot of things were supposed to die and haven't died, but almost might die. And you've really been a part of all of it. But let's start here. I mean, I had to fire up your Wikipedia. This guy's got a Wikipedia, by the way, which is something I've always wanted.
Which I didn't do. Mm-hmm. And I haven't looked at.
Well, of course you didn't do it.
Well, no, why would anybody do that? I mean, Wikipedia could be smaller by about 30%, just based on stuff like that.
Sure.
I mean, who could... Nobody cares less.
It's not the longest page in the world, but you got a good amount of stuff on there.
I wouldn't know. I'll just
You've
take
never
your
looked
word.
it up?
Never.
I checked.
I know who I am. I checked. I know when I was born. I know what I've done. I don't need to research me.
I've checked. I probably checked my Wikipedia for a Wikipedia. I'm not going to make it myself because I can't do that. But I probably check once every couple months just to see if somebody, somebody whip one up for me.
What's your sister doing? It's not like she's overloaded with work.
That's true. Maybe I'll talk to her because then technically I wouldn't have made it, and I can pretend like I didn't know.
Yeah.
Who did it? So let's start here. It says that you've been in this industry. We know everybody knows the name Ray Ratto, and everybody knows that you've been around for a very long time. But how did it actually start with you? When did you know you wanted to get into sports writing? And how did you go from there?
My dad was a garbage man, mm-hmm. and I knew I didn't want to do that.
Right.
And the only other thing that I can think of was that I could read and write when I was 3, and it always seemed like fun.
Yeah, that's 3. So that's pretty good.
Well, I don't know if it is or not. I was only 3 at the time, but by the time I was 10 or 11, I said, you know what? This is what I want to do.
Right.
And by the time I got to high school, I was writing some sports stuff for this little Catholic weekly. Mm-hmm. And I knew I wanted to get into journalism. And so I worked at the high school paper. When I went to San Francisco State, I worked at the college paper. Mm-hmm. It's just the thing that made the most sense to me.
Yeah.
Not because it's particularly noble or lucrative. Mm-hmm. It's just, I don't have to pick up other people's trash.
Yeah.
Then that's the bar I wanted to clear, and I did it.
You did.
I'm a complete success based on the fact that other people are driving those trucks.
That's fair enough. You hear all these stories with people that have been in the industry for a long time, and it's always, you've heard them before. I waited in front of the building every day until they gave me an internship. And when kids these days are trying to talk to those that have been in the industry and they say stuff like that, it's funny to me because if you did that these days, you're probably going to get the cops called on you. You can't do that. I'll actually tell a story. I was in a situation like that, and I won't say the publication, but this was years ago before I was really in the industry or anything like that. And I had, my parents' friends, other friends, hey, you go in there, you drop off your resume, and you say, hi, I'd like to speak to the hiring manager, right? That's what they said to do. So I go over, I was working a different job, but you know what? I'm going to show that I really want this. And I hop on BART, I get to the mission, I get to the building. Hello, here's my resume. And the secretary looked at me like I was insane, or the executive assistant like I was insane. And you have to go upstairs, and she's at the bottom level. And I say, hey, here's my resume. She said, okay, well, did you already apply? Well, yeah, I already applied, but I just want to show that I really want it. She said, thank you for the resume, and would not let me near the elevator. She said, you have to leave. So those stories that, similar to yours, I mean, you weren't I was there in the cold, and it always gets worse. It was snowing. Now all of a sudden it's snowing in Northern California. But nowadays you can't really do that. And stories like yours, they're interesting, and you're really, they are captivating. But at the same time, it's kind of crazy that you can't do that anymore.
My story wasn't like that at all. I mean, I fell into this. I mean, standing outside for hours. I mean, I don't want to stand inside for minutes. No, when I went to San Francisco State, a lot of the instructors were people who worked at the Chronicle and Examiner.
Yeah.
And so one of them, I mean, they were looking for something called copy boys at the time. And somebody at the Examiner said, hey, they're looking for a copy boy at the Examiner.
Yeah.
Are you interested? And I said, yes. So it fell. I fell into it. I didn't do a resume. I didn't do shit.
Yeah.
And that was the start. Because once you're in, you had to work really hard to get out. Now, once you're in, it's real easy to get out because they'll shove you out.
Yeah.
So no, I don't have the standing outside or making myself annoying to a secretary.
You could make
story.
up a story though.
Oh yeah, I had to kill 4 people to get this copy boy job.
Yeah,
because I needed that $68.25 a week.
Hey, I'm sure it went further than it would go now.
Oh yeah, no, it's. I've been lucky the whole time because there are a lot of people who are better than me who never got a sniff. So at some point you have to recognize the fact that however good you might be, you probably didn't earn this as much as you fell into it.
Right. And part of your, I guess, legend is your picture that happened during the catch. And the picture is everywhere. When you Google Ray Ratto, which I know you don't, but I did, it's one of the first pictures that comes up. You look great, by the way. I mean, you're a good looking guy. I got to give that to you, by the way.
All right, if you're going to be full of crap like this, I got other stuff to do.
I'm just saying. Oh yeah, yeah. That is Ray. That is Ray. Take me through. I mean, that is probably the most famous play in the history of Bay Area sports. You were there to see it. You end up being in the picture. Of course, at the time, I don't think you knew you were going to be in the picture. But take us through how that happened. You being there, and I guess your feeling. Did you think, wow, this could be the start of a dynasty? Did you just think, great catch, we'll see what happens in the Super Bowl? What was the plan?
I didn't think any of that.
Yeah.
One of the quirks about Candlestick Park was if you were covering the game, you needed to be down on the field with about 6 minutes to go because if you tried to get to the locker room through the stands, you'd never make it.
Okay.
So everybody would walk through the stands with about 6-7 minutes to go and get on the field.
Right.
So this was necessity, not sort of inspiration. The only thing I thought of that I'll give myself credit for is I walked down to the other end of the field where most riders never went because that was farther away from the entrance where the players came in.
Yeah.
And I said, I can stand at one side of the end zone or the other in case they get there.
Right.
And I decided to stand on the side where the 49ers were going to the right because Montana was a right-handed quarterback.
Got it.
The odds are slightly better that they're going to run a play to the right than the left, and maybe I'll get lucky.
Wow.
That was it.
Yeah.
Everything after that was completely accidental.
Wow. I mean, but technically, you could, you give you a little bit of credit to yourself, like you said. I mean, you had a feeling they'd go that way. They end up going that way. And then after that, not that the picture almost became more famous for you after you made a name because at the time, you know what I mean? You were just in the picture, but
I was just a guy wearing a lobster bib.
Right, just in the picture. And then the Niners go on. And look, and by the way, if you are listening, by the way, this is the Stiles Files with our guy Ray Ratto, Bay Area sports legend. And
Stop doing that.
No, I'm gonna keep doing it. And if you
suck.
If you are listening, I had some of my buddies say, "Oh, what are you gonna talk to Ray about?" And they suggested about the QB battle in the Bay Area or the Giants. And I said, "Look, guys, if I try to talk to Ray about that, he will walk up and leave. So if you are trying to hear what Ray thinks about Trey Lance or Brock Purdy, this is not the episode for you.
Oh, I've already got my theory on that.
Okay.
I'm looking at a tweet this morning, and Matt Mayoko lists the stats of the
Right.
4 quarterbacks through 9 practices, which in itself is incredibly stupid. And their completion percentages are almost exactly the same.
Right.
So I just sent him a note, just said, well, clearly they're the same guy, so why don't they just do it in alphabetical order? Start Brandon Allen. There, problem solved.
Oh
You don't
my
have to go to another
gosh.
practice.
You don't have to go to another practice.
Because this is all nonsense.
Yeah.
It's always nonsense. We do things that are just performative all the time in this business.
And
now.
it's bad. I will say because there is a quote unquote battle. Personally, I think it's Brock Purdy's job. You can't do what he did last season and lose your job. That's just not how it works. But it is bad. I mean, and I know you're not on social media as much as me, but Ray, I mean, the split between you can't trust. I can't say you can't trust anybody, but you see one person, it's why are you holding out on what Trey's doing or how things are, the bias that you're showing. It's a complete mess this year, complete mess.
It's not a complete mess. It's that people need to feel like they have a vote. And the fact is, Kyle Shanahan's already told you what he's doing.
Yeah.
I mean, just what's the argument here?
Right.
The only thing you need to know is in what week of the regular season Purdy goes down. Because that's happening.
You think
Not
so?
because of him,
Yeah.
but because that's the nature of the 49ers.
Yeah.
They chew through quarterbacks the way dogs go through chew toys.
Well, and that's why the idea of trading Trey Lance was ridiculous to me. It's been ridiculous
trading
to
it
me.
might not be ridiculous. Who knows?
Right.
But the fact is, Kyle Shanahan, I think, gets a howl every night reading everybody saying they should do this or they should do that, when he's basically showed you his cards. Said, I said Brock Purdy was my quarterback.
Yeah.
I said it in April. I said it the day before he went in for surgery. He's the guy.
Yeah.
Why aren't you paying attention? Because we don't want to pay attention.
Right.
We'd prefer to be stupid.
Well, and it's fun to be stupid, to be completely honest. Since everybody just took him.
It's the only way you can justify paying attention to training camp.
Right.
Because the only thing you need to know about training camp is who's getting hurt. And you can't know that. So you have to fill it with other nonsense.
Yeah.
And this is it. I mean, this team is pretty much set. There are no position battles. There's nothing to be interested in. But you have to be interested because otherwise you'd have to interact with other people, and we know what a bad idea that is.
No, well, and like I said, that's not something that you maybe love doing. Well, and you know what? Because this is inside information, and I guess I was wrong. We just got some free tea from Ray about the 49ers situation. But okay, let's just address something right here. This is an exclusive interview, by the way, and now I'm just going to keep one-upping
That's
this
because
whole
nobody
thing.
else would do it.
I'm just going to keep one-upping this whole thing. You have, I guess, thinking about your path and being TV and now radio, you do have the personality of the curmudgeon, right? And I'm curious, how did that come about? Do you think that it's just who you are? And when people started, because you can see stuff when people are like, oh, Ray's kind of the grumpier guy, but I like that about him. How, I was talking with my buddy about Russell Wilson and how a lot of people think he's corny, and now it's hard to figure out if it's a shtick or not, right? I mean, that ridiculous Subway commercial that didn't even go out, you're thinking, what the heck? Like, that just can't really be him. So I want you to tell the people right now listening, how much of curmudgeon Ray Ratto is real Ray Ratto?
I have no idea. I try to spend as little time as possible engaging in self-reflection.
Really?
I don't know. It's just, I've been around. I mean, I should have been dead years ago, but I've been around enough to see the dog and pony happen again and again and again. So a lot of this doesn't surprise or amaze me at all.
Yeah.
The stuff that you see in a game is the last amazing thing. Everything else is performative, or it's been scripted, or it's predictable. So maybe what people think is me being a curmudgeon is me just going, yeah, I've seen this donkey show before.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, I mean, there are weird things, and you have to be able to adjust to the weird things, like the Pac-12 turning into the
Oh
Pac-4.
my gosh, that's sad, man.
I don't know if it's sad. It's just business.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you could see it coming maybe 15 years ago if you remember that college sports is not sports. It's just business.
Yeah.
But other than that, I'm not awed by very many things anymore. So maybe it comes across as me being sour. That and I hate humans.
The Pac-12, just real quick before we move off of it, how do you feel about NIL and the transfer portal?
It's the bare minimum of what athletes should be getting. But this isn't about that. This is about TV/media money. It's got nothing to do with players, because I can guarantee you that however this shakes out, whatever's left is going to try to figure out ways to screw players.
Yeah.
Because that's how they built the economic engine that is college sports.
Yeah.
It's taking in money and not having to spend it. And to the extent that they have to spend it on players above and beyond, the $100 handshake,
Yeah.
they resent every bit of it. And whoever's in charge, even if it's just 3 commissioners, they're going to try to figure out ways around NIL. I don't know how they're going to do it.
Yeah.
But they've got lawyers upon lawyers thinking about it. The NC2A is dead, but those 3 commissioners are going to create a new NC2A with a different acronym where they get to decide who gets punished and who doesn't.
No, I think that's a great point. And, Angel Reese, she didn't get in trouble, but people didn't love when she said, why would I leave college when I'm making more money than some of these WNBA players, or a lot of them? And people said, oh, you should probably keep that on the low. And it makes you think it's the wild, wild west right now. You got to get your money when you can. I'm thinking about, and, we've talked about my daughter, and if she does play sports, and there's no point even, wow, Alan, talking to my buddies, what if she gets this crazy NIL deal? By the time she's in college, that thing will be a well-oiled machine, and they would have found a new way.
They'll learn how to slot players in 7th grade.
There is not going to be this wild, wild west of just, Andrew Reese can get $1.5 million. It's not going to be that.
Or there will be another form of wild, wild west.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. To me, it's a condemnation of the WNBA that they're now being outspent for the best players by a college team.
And that's what people didn't like. It's like, hey, you probably shouldn't say stuff like that. And she's probably thinking, it's the truth.
She should absolutely tell the truth.
Yeah.
I mean, this is her truth, but it's also defensible by math. I'm taking in more money where I am than where I'm going to go.
Yeah.
That's absurd. If the WNBA is growing, and it is, and it's going to become an important thing, a more important thing as years go on, at some point, you got to put your money where your mouth is instead of just going, they'll work for nothing because we're going to claim we don't have money. They've all got money.
Yeah.
And they're all going to get more.
Yeah. Well, and
the argument is about who's going to get it.
Right. And we don't have time to get into Saudi Arabia and how that, in a couple of years, this whole thing, I don't know about a couple, but you never know. Everything could look completely different. Everything.
Absolutely. It's a pie fight. And that's the stuff that I'm always amazed and surprised at.
Yeah.
But it's based on the thing that there's no such thing as enough money. There's no such thing as not greedy enough. Those are they're laws of physics.
Yeah.
If you're a billionaire and you see a quarter underneath your dinner table, you're diving on it.
Yeah.
That's it. Whoever you are, that's a quarter that you have that somebody else doesn't. That's the driving engine of capitalism. And we might be on the end stage of capitalism, but until something different comes along, that's it. It's making sure that I have something you don't have.
Yeah. That's what it's all about. And, there's just not enough people that are willing to say it like that. Right. But that's why you're Ray Ratto. And look, Ray, before I get you out of here, and thank you so much for joining.
You're going to regret this.
There's going to be a part 2. So,
Christ.
Yes, it's going to be a part 2 because, like I said, Ray already told me that he's only 9 minutes away. So we're gonna meet up again. We're gonna do part 2. But
don't you threaten me.
I wanted to say you have been a part of, quote unquote old media, but here you are on a podcast. We got the cool mics. We're in the cool setting. Now you're a bit a part of new media. And how do you feel about the new media aspect I guess in all facets, whether it's the ability for any Joe Schmo to get in front of a mic, and also the athlete part of it, and how they're feeling a lot more empowered to do things and to, well, we can make our own media, and Andre Iguodala is going to announce whether he's retired or not on his podcast, because you've really seen the whole transition of sports media and to where it was and where we are now.
Well, I mean, look, it's what Karl Marx said 130 years ago, you know, who controls the means of production?
Yeah.
Now everybody has a chance to control their own means of production. It means there's a lot less definable truth out there and a lot more, this is my view of it.
Yeah.
So you as a consumer have to be a lot more careful about what you believe, but that's the deal too.
Yeah.
You know, you can go on the internet and see 20 things, of which 23 will be false and demonstrably so.
Yeah.
But, you know, let the customer beware. You wanted to say, now you got it. You know, everything that's good also has a backlash.
Yeah.
So if I were you, I'd drink.
Well, look, we're going to keep on, you know, trying to, I guess, build out the landscape and make my own mark in this. And you've already made your mark, but I really appreciate you coming on my podcast to help me make a mark, because as much as you might not want to admit it, you are a staple in this industry, and you have also paved the way for people like me to not just come in and feel like, okay, I have to say this or that, or I have to follow a certain structure. I can say whatever I want, and if people like it and if people find me entertaining, that's all that matters, because that's what you do, Ray. And I appreciate you for that.
Horse shit. Pure and unadulterated.
I'm just saying.
I know you're just saying it, but it's a load.
Well, it is.
It's just the only thing that's happened here is that stuff's changed, and you're 50 years younger than I am.
Yeah.
And you're adapting to the conditions that you know.
You got to. You got to be a chameleon. And actually, you are a chameleon, Ray. You might not think so, but you are.
I think you've self-corrected from fraud.
Fair enough. Well, thank you, Ray, so much for joining. Like I said, tune in for part 2. We don't know when it's going to happen, but tune in for part 2. Thank you, everybody, for listening and watching the Stiles Files. Ray Ratto, thank you again for joining. I'll see you at Applebee's in a little bit. Be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you next time. Be safe, be well, be wise. Peace.
Be drunk.